Ahoy, mateys. This is KAB Antonio Bay. Stevie Wayne here, beaming a signal across the sea.
And now, our feature presentation.
I like it spooky.
Hey everybody, welcome to the I Like It Spooky Horror Podcast. I'm Brian.
I am Clint, and convention season is in full swing, so in anticipation of one of our favorite horror cons of all time, Flashback Weekend in Chicago, we will be traveling to Antonio Bay here in just a little bit. But before we board the Elizabeth Dane, let's get to some horror news.
So my news this episode is from Bloody Disgusting, and it says, Return of the Living Dead 3 Lost First Cut containing unseen footage has been uncovered. Is it weird that these movies aren't that old and that there's lost cuts? Usually it's like stuff from the 70s or earlier than that that's got a lost cut.
Well, you think about it, though. When did this come out? In 93? Yeah, 1993. I mean, we're talking like 30 years. So it seems like yesterday to us because we're old. Old Man River, this movie, it's been a long time since this has been out. I've got the article pulled up in front of me too, and one of the things that I like about what the article said is that Brian Yunza directed this, isn't afraid to bring the pain and gore in Return of the Living Dead 3. So everybody's extra curious what the footage could contain, because maybe it's a ton of gore that got cut for a rating.
Yeah, and it says almost 8 minutes of a never-before-seen footage, not in the unrated version. And the announcement comes with a photo of the T120 VHS master containing the cut.
At the end of the article, it says, stay tuned for additional details as they arrive. And then it says, in the meantime, you can stream this goopy gem, that's how they described it, on Freevee, Tubi, and the Roku channel. So if you haven't seen Return of the Living Dead Part 3, if you saw the first one and you're like, oh, I got to see the second one, and you saw the second one and you're like, I'm never going to watch another one ever again, watch Part 3 because it's a good flick. And yeah, I can't wait to see the extra footage. Hopefully it's just gore fucking city.
Yeah, they're going to do something with this. They're going to be a 4K or something along those lines. I love the first one. And then you watch the second one, you're like, okay, it's fine. They tried way too hard in the second one, but it's got Tom Matthews and I can't think of the other guy's character's name or the guy's name. They have the same names in the second movie.
James Cairn.
But then the third's not a different story. It's a departure from the first two.
Completely different departure. It took a more serious tone. You had the love story. You added self-mutilation kind of aspect to it. Another reason I think this is interesting is because Melinda Clarke, who played the lead female zombie in Return of the Living Dead Part 3, she's been traveling the con circuit for a couple of years now. So this is going to be perfect timing to capitalize on the buzz of her being around. Because I noticed she does cons, but she doesn't she doesn't overstay her welcome. She doesn't saturate, everything. She's just kind of here and then she's over there.
Yeah, she's not at every con happening in the continental United States like some people, which, I mean, I get it. They got to make a living, but it's nice to see when somebody pops up and you're like, they've never been to this show before, and you can grab their autograph.
I like too, because there continues to be Return of the Living Dead buzz. Obviously, that's Brian, it's your all-time favorite horror film. It's way up there on my list. How do you not like Return of the Living Dead? They've had some hits and misses in the franchise. But now there's the indie project, which is Trash's Suicide, which is based off Linnea Quigley's character from the first Return of the Living Dead. You're just getting countless toys being released. And this is just another exciting thing in the Return of the Living Dead universe.
Probably going to cost me some money.
Usually does.
You said it's free on Tubi?
Yes. It says here at the end of the article that it's free right now on Freevee, which I use to watch Night Court all the time, Tubi, and the Roku channel.
And our friends at Tubi are part of our appendages now.
That was an amazing first episode when I love that whole appendages episode. If no one's listened to that yet, go check it out. Brian introduces the fact that we've partnered up with Tubi and, bringing you news on, movies they have going on. And Tubi is just such a great fucking outlet. I don't know what I would do without Tubi.
And my other news is, and we worded this weirdly on the opening episode of the show, the wrong podcast died is a new appendage or vein or offshoot of the I Like It Spooky universe. So it's a new podcast. It's pop culture. It's horror fans that love pop culture or don't love pop culture. I guess it depends on the movie, but we wanted to kind of push ourselves out of our comfort zone. So we're covering movies that we wouldn't cover on this show or maybe even never watch. But that's going to start coming out later in July, and it's going to come out the opposite weeks of Spooky. So wherever you listen to this podcast, that's where you'll find the wrong podcast died. We thought about putting it out as a separate thing, but I thought it pairs well, and it's more content, and it's something different.
What I like about it is you said spooky universe, because this is just yet another subcast offered by us here at the I Like It Spooky Horror podcast. But when I say us, I don't include myself, because you're going to hear a brand new voice included in this. You're going to hear Brian, which I'm sorry, you got to hear more of Brian. I know. When he calls me, I'm like, Jesus Christ, I got to hear more of Brian. But you're going to hear a new voice, and we're going to be joined by Hot Rod.
When they think they got the answers, I change the questions.
Or I think they're coming out with like different names to say with Rod. So I don't know if it's been Steel Rod, Hot Rod, maybe like kicking around like porn names for Rod. I don't know, but
4 Foot Rod.
4 Foot Rod. I've heard a couple of the episodes, and yeah, it's a departure, because you guys cover everything from, can I say a couple of the things that you do? You guys cover everything from Clueless to Charlotte's Web to Bloodsport. So like Brian just said, it's a pop culture thing. And, but it's through the lens. What I like about it, it's through the eyes of two horror fans. So it does still fit here, and like you said, the spooky universe.
It's growing slowly but surely, like a virus, pandemic, epidemic.
The trioxin from Return of the Living Dead, and there is no fucking cure. There is no antibiotic. All you can do is listen and just keep listening and keep listening.
Drink it in, man.
You're going to need bigger headphones. And that's a great segue into my news, because from bloodydisgusting.com, the article starts and says you're going to need a bigger shelf, which is a play on you're going to need a bigger boat, because Lego is turning the boat, the Orca from Jaws, into an official Lego set coming out this August. Looks here like it's a 1,497 piece Lego set, and it will be released on August 1st of 2024.
You're gonna need a bigger boat.
The set will retail for $159.99, features a 14-inch high Lego replica of the Orca, as well as the iconic shark, which is situated on a wide diorama base. I've seen pictures of this, and it reminds me a lot of the McFarlane Toys Jaws box set from the movie Maniacs. Real similar to that, but it's Legos. And this is one of those things where Boots loves Legos. She's a Lego master, so we get her giant sets, and she just loves putting these things together. So I'm going to have to get 2 of these, because one is, of course, going to stay in the fucking box.
How long does that take you to put together? Any idea? I mean, if you're a Lego master.
I tell you what, she amazes me. I get her these big sets, and it does not take her long. I can't tell you for sure, but she moves along pretty quickly with these things. And usually for her, it's like a Christmas or a birthday gift. So it's wintertime for both. So it's kind of like that's what she does when she's bored on, Christmas break from school. So she does devote a lot of like focused time to it, but it does not take her long. Me, it would take, I don't know, forever.
Kind of like these two are bleeding together. News and the poor.
Exactly.
It would bleed into you going to the nursing home, and they'll be like, what's he doing? Oh, putting together a Lego he's had for the last 30 years.
Well, and it would bleed into me being poor, because I wouldn't have time to go to work to make any money, because I'd be focused on trying to finish this damn set. That reminds me, I don't have any money.
So on this episode of Why Are We Poor, I went to Kentucky, and I found stuff there, and I found more stuff there. I stumbled on one of the few remaining FYEs. They're kind of becoming lost. Most of them are closed down unless you're in a big city.
I had no idea there were any left. It's going to wind up being like the last Blockbuster or something.
So when we went to Kansas City this year, there was one in the mall there, and there was one in Louisville. First thing I grabbed, Godzilla playing cards. And they're like licensed playing cards. It says Toho on them, so Toho partnered with some American company to make these. The cool part is, you find the face cards. Like the Jack is Mechagodzilla, and the Queen is Mothra, and the King is Godzilla.
They're all kind of like a very colorful, you're showing me right now, very colorful, almost kind of comic book cartoony. Did you ever wonder when we're dead and gone and it's time to go through our estates? I mean, there's either going to be someone really excited or there's going to be someone like, what in the fuck is all of this shit?
Yeah, and the Joker is Rodon. So, I mean, cool cards. They're fun. I'll keep them. I haven't played with them. I'm just keeping them in the box. I also found a color-changing coffee cup.
It's Godzilla, by the way, just in case you didn't know.
So when it's cold, it's just Godzilla, and then when it's hot, it's Godzilla with fire behind him. And I mean, it was $15. Hell, I don't know if you can buy a coffee cup nowadays with a logo on it.
That's a super nice collector box. But what I'm seeing is a theme here is you're going to be drinking lots of coffee, trying to figure out how to hustle people with 3-card money because you're poor and you need more money.
Exactly. And then this was fun. I found a Reanimator, 11 by 17. I don't think it's anything special. It's even got like the push pins. Somebody pinned it to their wall. But it was $3 for the poster. And the frame I got at a church yard sale for $1. They had 2 frames. So I was like, for $1? So the cool Reanimator, when they had cool artwork on the front of movie posters and movies.
Yeah, because I love that from the 80s because you always had like a scene and all this stuff tied in. And then of course, in the 90s and 2000s, all it got where it was like everybody's head and like a house in the background or something.
A bus, a car, a plane, yeah. And then this was the last thing I grabbed.
Halloween 3 Witch, Skull, and Pumpkin Faces art print.
Happy, happy Halloween, 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 happy, happy Halloween, silver shamrock.
Yeah, Matt Reedy. We went to my son's graduation party, and he lives up by Chicago. So the town he lives in, St. Charles, there's a store called Ghoulish Mortals. And you walk in, and it's just filled with artwork, filled with horror-related items, jewelry, and taxidermy stuff, and 4 pinball machines that are free to play. So we're walking around looking at stuff, taking pictures with stuff, because the rooms are kind of themed. Like one room is Stranger Things, and one is Basement from Freddy's, the boiler room. And I asked the guy, I was like, I don't see any Halloween 3 prints. Do you have any? He said, we used to do some stuff with a company from England, but we don't do anything with them anymore. So I don't think we have any. And he thought, and he's like, actually, I might have one. So this was the last one. And my plan is to take it to Flashback and possibly get it signed. But I have some more artwork that's coming that I'll have after Flashback. So I don't know if I'm going to get that signed or this signed or both signed, or I don't know. I'll have to see what cost is when I get to Flashback for autographs and go from there.
Well, I was going to say, so what you're talking about is you're getting some Halloween 3 paintings, some original renditions from our friend Brian Hoover, artist Brian Hoover, who was on the last episode when we covered Children Shouldn't Play with Dead Things. I remember I listened to that episode and I announced him as an aficionado, which I think I should have said more super fan. Yeah, so this episode right here comes out just before Motor City Nightmares, which is the weekend just before Flashback in Chicago. So if you're in the Michigan area, you think you might be traveling to Flashback, there are going to be a ton of celebrities from Halloween 3. Grab some artwork from Brian Hoover. He's going to be set up at Motor City Nightmares. He will have some Halloween 3 paintings there for you to go get signed, and he is an amazing artist.
Well, hopefully, because I bought that one, he said, now I got to do more Halloween 3 stuff. I said, you better get to work, but I've been watching his page, and he's just doing some stuff. I'm like, oh, I want that. He has a Leatherface from Texas Chainsaw Massacre. He had Creature from the Black Lagoon. I'm like, damn it, quit doing this. And I mean, his prices they're 3 chalk prints. So it's chalk, and I'm going to seal it. He said, buy some sealant and seal them up and frame them. It was $75 for the 3 prints.
I have always said that I think Hoover undersells himself. So I tell you what, if you're interested in original horror artwork, grab up Hoover's stuff at Motor City Nightmares before he wises up and raises his prices, which he could very, very rightfully do so.
Yeah, because you go to other artist pages, you're getting prints, and their originals are $400 or $500, which I understand. And it's not like he's a nobody artist. I mean, he's doing stuff for Upper Deck, and he's doing stuff for other people. So he's got some legitimacy to his artwork. So I was like, I feel like it'd be stupid not to grab these before he takes off and realizes, hey, I should have sold them Halloween 3 chalk prints for $100 each or something like that.
Exactly. You know, you talked about he churns out a lot of amazing things and like you want more and more. And it makes me think of like your home is going to have a wall of Hoover. It's kind of like the last episode that just came out of Indie Spotlight where we interviewed Dead Fred and his talking about his horror photography and that, you know, you want a wall of Fred in your room too, or in your house too. Lots of amazing artists. Maybe we can get one of them to be a sponsor for the show. Well, before we do, I got to tell you, you are one thrifty motherfucker because you get all this cool stuff. And it's like, the frame was $1 at a church sale. And I found this print for, I forget what you said, but it wasn't much money.
$3.
Yeah. And my dumb ass is always just like, you know, shelling out fucking cash. But so nothing for the collection this time. But for psychotherapy, you hear us refer to it as the Nugget all the time. I'm starting to try to transition that away and get into the psychotherapy name. It's going to be an asylum-themed horror entertainment complex all year round. And I wanted to get, since it's asylum-themed, I was looking for like early to mid 70s, but I want to get a hearse ambulance combo, you know, the high top hearse ambulance combo, something to put out front for a road sign, which, you know, hearse enthusiasts are going to want to kill me because, you know, you want to restore those beauties and get them on the road. But I also think I do that also. So this is going to be a great way for people to come in and just something else for them to explore while they're there and take pictures with and look at. Well, our friends down at Murray's Cool Cars in Bryan, Ohio. So if you're a hot rod, classic car, not hot rod like the wrong podcast died. I mean, the actual steel beep, beep, driving around hot rod. If you're that an enthusiast for old classic cars and particularly hearses, you can get onto Facebook and type in Murray's Cool Cars. And I've been down there before. Murray's a cool guy. A mutual friend of ours, well, I shouldn't say friend because I found out that he does work for him, but a friend of mine, Michael Green, who owns a hearse and travels to all the shows. He's turned me on to some amazing tattoo artists down in Ohio. Got a hold of me and said, hey, there's a 68 Cadillac that Murray's got. It's the high top ambulance. I think he had different plans for it, but decided to go ahead and sell it. And this happened just before we started recording this episode right now. So as of this recording, I'm glad I'm here, chomping at the bit to get off the mic. I've been in the works all morning of putting this deal together. So as of right now, I haven't spent any cash, but it looks like I'm going to drop a little money to get this very cool 1968 Cadillac ambulance hearse.
You can either go to the insane asylum or the hospital or the morgue. Which one do you want?
And they'll all be in one building known as psychotherapy, which might open one day. I was hoping it was going to be open a while ago, but it still looks like it's going to be a bit. And until it opens, I am going to be extremely poor because I keep pouring money into it. Plus, you know, buying all this other stuff. So we should probably take it to a sponsor.
Great idea.
I mean, what's odd stands out. What's even lies flat. But you can't see the outstanding without the flat background.
Death Stitch Custom Clothing. Death Stitch Custom Clothing offers 100% handcrafted, handpicked, and painstakingly matched upcycled t-shirt flannels, bags, and more.
There's this thing standing out. It's odd. Each one of you is odd. Strange, unique, particular, different. How do we know what we mean by that, except against the background of something even?
Death Stitch Custom Clothing.
On Facebook.
So now that we've heard from our sponsor, it's time for the movie. And this episode, because Flashback's coming to Chicago again this year. I guess in Chicago every year. But like you said earlier, it's one of our favorite conventions. It's my favorite convention. And Tom Atkins is going to be there. And is somebody else from the movie going to be there?
Adrienne Barbeau is going to be there, who I met last year at Scarefest in Kentucky and is an absolute sweetheart. Just horror royalty, but she was a beautiful, beautiful person to talk to. So go support her and meet her and enjoy your time.
The 1980 synth horror classic, The Fog.
Synth, not Sith. We're not talking about Star Wars. Synth.
Did I say Sith?
No, I was just being silly, but it's got the Alan Howarth, however you say his name, John Carpenter's signature, music to it. Beautiful fucking music. This is another one of those Saturday shocker flicks that I caught while hiding out in the basement of my grandparents when I was a kid. I initially caught just the ending, which immediately hooked me. There was no way I couldn't see the rest of this film based off just that haunting image of those red-eyed pirates, ghosts, and the the top sound effects, and the beautiful transition into the score.
So most people know this movie because, I mean, it's a great movie, but they know that first part where he tells the story.
11:55, almost midnight. Enough time for one more story.
Of the Elizabeth Dane and the wreck, and it's 100 years ago. So it was either 1880, but I felt like at some point in the movie they said 1876. But maybe that was when there's, as we get into the movie, we'll talk more about that. But the synopsis is pretty much there's a town, they want to have a celebration, 100-year celebration, but something happened, and that something is coming for revenge.
Come to find out, without trying to give too much of the movie away, if you haven't seen it, which if you haven't, then you've been living under a rock, and I'm not trying to bully you, but go see this fucking movie if you haven't seen it. But part of it is that this town was formed 100 years ago, and you find out throughout the film that it was sinister on how it was formed. There was some murder, death, mayhem, betrayal. Damn it, there's some revenge coming on the horizon for this town on their 100th celebration. But so I'm jumping way ahead of my notes here because you're talking about the different, you said you thought it was earlier than 1880. So John Carpenter has stated that the inspiration for this film was from the 1958 film The Crawling Eye, a trip to Stonehenge that he took, and I just learned this, an actual event, which is the wrecking of the Frolic that took place in the 19th century near Goleta, California. So I didn't see a specific date, but I wonder if maybe that's the date you're getting hung up on, is the actual event.
Later in the movie, I know a lot of people love that first part where he tells the story, but my favorite part of this movie is when the preacher or the father is telling the story and the two females are sitting with him. And I felt like at that point he says that date because he's telling the story of how the town was founded and all these bad things that these people did and how judgmental they were and how they killed the crew of the Elizabeth Dane. So I felt like it said that date. And maybe I'm wrong, but it was 100 years ago and shit's about to go down. And I always feel like maybe it was an epiphany or just like a thought I had today watching it again this morning. John Carpenter had like cool ass childhood because he has all these ideas of the boogeyman and this story and stuff that you hear growing up that he took and made into movies. For those stories about Crybaby Bridge or this or that or, the asylum. And he was lucky enough to take those stories and make them into movies.
One of the things you can attribute to John Carpenter's success, obviously I'm kind of biased from this angle, is he's a storyteller. The fog, like you just said, the two moments that a lot of people love in this film are the beginning with John Houseman, which I'm going to talk about in a minute, and then when Hal Holbrook is talking to Janet Leigh and Jamie Lee Curtis, to their characters, relating even more of the story. And this movie is such a story-driven movie, and it's such a good fucking story. But I think John Carpenter's success is, look at the influences. His influences were from a 1958 film, The Crawling Eye, which was about like monsters in the clouds. And then he took a trip to Stonehenge and saw, there was probably swirling mist and stuff around, and then an actual wreck that he just came across. So he's able to just let all these influences of all these really good stories just kind of flow through him. And he's able to churn out some really good stuff.
And one thing I would tell our listeners, if you watch this movie, if you've never seen it before and you watch it the first time, and you're like, yeah, it was fine, watch it again. And then maybe even watch it again because it will grow on you and it will become, hopefully, a comfort movie for you.
I think our old co-host Underwood said the same thing, said the more and more he watched this movie, the more and more it became one of his favorite movies. It's that typical John Carpenter wide Panavision shot, which makes it look grandioso to begin with. He's got the simple compositions. It's very relatable. Nothing's too over the top. Great fucking story. This one doesn't have a lot of blood. He was going for a PG rating. They wound up giving it an R rating anyway. I don't know if it was for the quote unquote violence. In comparison to a lot of stuff that we enjoy and cover, because Brian, you and I both love the gore and the violence and the sleaze. This is almost like an artistic piece. It's not slow, but it's very even tempoed. It's an artwork. It's very beautiful.
Yeah, and it's appropriate for probably 10 to 12 and up.
Gateway! Take a shot. I want to go back. You talked about the beginning. The beginning with John Houseman is such a hook. And it wasn't even originally in the film. When Carpenter finished this film, it was like, okay, this is too short. And so we need to put some filler in here. And that's another testament to John Carpenter is when he puts filler into a film, it's not like a Full Moon picture. It's not like a Charles Band picture where the filler is 22 minutes of credits in the beginning, and another 22 of credits at the end. So I used to write a blog series years ago, and I called it Corpse-tagious. I released it every Tuesday. It was discussing the ins and outs of the haunted attraction industry. And one of those entries centered around storytelling and was anchored on John Houseman's old sea captain campfire tale that kicks off this moody masterpiece. And I've actually kind of patterned how I design haunts in part from this movie. Make sure the beginning and make sure the ending grab you so fucking hard that anything less than throughout the middle doesn't even come to mind by the time you're done. But John Houseman's, with the watch and the close-up and his voice, and you feel like you're a kid at that campfire just engrossed in his story.
How bad do you want to be a kid at that campfire?
I would give anything to be a kid at that campfire. I'd give anything to be John Houseman at that campfire, because that would mean I'm pretty fucking old, but cool.
That's one of my notes I had is, they did the credits, opening credits, right. They didn't do it like the Funhouse, which I enjoyed the movie, or like the Full Moon Dolls, where it's just dolls and pictures. They laid the credits over the opening to the film and built it into it. So you're getting the story, but you're also getting the credit. And this has become a thing in horror history, which I'll talk about later. Every year, my timeline is full of people on April 21st. It's the fog day. Watching this movie. I want to go live in this fucking town. It's just beautiful. The scenery is just amazing.
And of course, the score that they put together goes right along with it. I always thought it was interesting that this is kind of considered a low budget film, but I was looking it up and it had $1 million budget and it's grossed more than almost 21.5 million. It is crazy to me that a $1 million budget in 1979, 1980 was considered low budget. But much like when we covered Horror Hotel, I'm assuming that a lot of the budget had to go towards the fog. There's a lot of fog. I mean, the movie's called The Fog.
Well, and they spent over $3 million advertising the movie. Did you find that information?
I saw that I think it was Embassy Entertainment. Am I saying that wrong? That they put 3 times the budget into advertising, and like each spot was like $350 or something. Like they really, really pushed this movie.
They bought playbills to give out, posters to give out. They bought fog machines for certain theaters.
Oh, that's cool.
And those were $350 a piece. They had moved the date for some reason. I can't remember why.
Well, I wonder if it was because, again, after the rough cut was assembled, they were like, this isn't long enough. And that's when they're like, okay, we need to shoot some additional footage. Whereas the John Houseman thing, and there was some other filler stuff that came in also.
February 1st of 1980. I think it was because they wanted to move it out of Christmas time and move it to a time that wasn't as busy. It was Joe Bob's summer school these last couple weeks. And one of the things he talked about is a film has to make double its budget to start making money. So if your movie costs 1.1 million, you had to make 2.2 and then you start making money. So this made money, but I thought that was interesting that, you have to double your budget before you even start making money because of all the advertising and stuff.
That's just kind of a rule of thumb in business anyway, is, that your immediate goal is to double your money. And if you can't, then you might want to think about what you're doing and try to either do something different or change your business model. Well, you look at inkmirrors.com. The stuff I do, there's always going to be some sort of markup because I can't do it for free. But there are so many things that you whittle away from the money that you're making. If I make a shirt and sell it for $20, I'm not making $20 on that shirt. So you have to figure out a business model, figuring all your factors. That's just kind of business school 101. But I thought was interesting is this movie, $1 million to make, triple that for the advertisement, and opening weekend, it only made $40,000? I didn't see what it was going up against. I'd be curious to see because, of course, 1980, you got a lot of classics coming out. We've talked about that before, that in the 80s, any given weekend was 3 or 4 future classics in the theater. You could just spend all day at the Cineplex and watch some of the greatest movies ever fucking made.
In 1980, movies that were released in 1980 of February.
Ooh, we're like doing this is horror history right now.
American Gigolo, Kramer vs. Kramer, and Jaws 2.
Actually, not a whole lot of competition then.
But Jaws 2 made $4 million over 26 theaters.
And The Fog made 40 grand opening weekend off of who knows how many.
And I mean, I don't know this movie. It made almost 16 million. Hero at Large.
Never heard of that. You know, sitting here talking about the budget, not much could have went into special effects because it was pretty much just fog. But I did just learn that FX artist Rob Bottin, who, you know, he's responsible for effects in RoboCop and The Thing, which is an effects-ridden movie. He played the part of the diseased zombie Captain Blake. I never knew that. So now, because, you know, NECA does a Captain Blake action figure, which I have. Hopefully Rob Bottin does, you know, hits the circuit. If you're listening, go ahead, Rob, hit the circuit. I would love to pay for your autograph on my toy.
They could do a 6-pack because there was 6 pirates, right, that passed.
I think so. Mm.
That's part of the story. They're trying to get revenge because the town pretty much killed them and stole their fucking treasure because they're assholes to build a church. You're going to steal somebody's money to build a church? What the fuck?
The birth of the TV, was it the evangelical? I can't even say it. Jim Baker. These people were Jim Baker's
Before,
relatives.
Somewhere on his family tree.
Right. I know I kind of keep coming at this whole thing from the guise of budget, but I also think that a lot of the budget for this film had to go towards the cast, which you cannot mention without talking about Janet Leigh and daughter Jamie Lee Curtis on screen together, Scream Queen royalty. And the only other time they were on screen together was Halloween H2O. So for listeners who don't know, Janet Leigh was, of course, in the famous shower scene in Psycho. And, you know, Jamie Lee Curtis is Jamie Lee Curtis.
And you got Tom Atkins and you got a myriad of, Adrienne Barbeau, but just every other actor that's in the movie that has maybe even a small scene is great.
You got Charles Cyphers, you got Hal Holbrook, you got Nancy Keys, you got George Buck Flower, a lot of Carpenter regulars. But of course, had gone on to do a lot of great things in their own rights, too. I mean, James Canning was in this, just a lot of talent.
I want to leave the podcast, not leave it, but when we're done recording, I want to go in the front room and put this movie on and just let it play. Just let it play all day. I may own a copy of this, but I watched it on Canopy for free, which is through our local library, and a lot of libraries throughout the United States have Canopy. All you do is go to your library and say, hey, I got a library card. Do you guys have Canopy? And they'll say yes or no. And then you come home and you download the Canopy app and you get 8 credits a month. So that's 4 movies. They're about 2 credits each. But they have some free stuff on there. And it was not on any other streaming services. So I watched it for free on Canopy.
We pushed that program a lot back years ago when I worked at the library for a couple of years. That's a great program. Again, that should be another episode of Appendages. You're just going to do nothing but record podcasts from now on, and then you're going to be forced to listen to the score from The Fog to just keep yourself calm and sane, because it is a beautiful score. But so we're talking about all of the star power of this film. This is, and I've said it before about other movies, this is one of those films. Go to Internet Movie Database if you're a trivia junkie like me, and there is just pages and pages of just fun, interesting facts about this film, The Fog. But I learned that the role of Father Malone was originally offered to Christopher Lee, but he wasn't available, so Hal Holbrook assumed the role, which when you hear that, you're like, oh, it would have been Christopher Lee. But Hal Holbrook was amazing. He is an amazing actor in his own rights. But I thought that was an interesting fact.
Nothing against Christopher Lee, but I think for this part, it's his part.
I agree completely.
Yeah, you throw Christopher Lee in that part and it kind of waters down the cast maybe too much. Kind of takes away from the people that are in it.
I think he would have shined the movie in a bad way. Hal is a perfect fit. Another perfect fit for this was Tom Atkins, because, I've always fancied him the man's man of horror. And this is the typical Tom Atkins role. Dude just driving down a road, old stepside pickup truck. Jamie Lee Curtis is hitchhiking. He picks her up, offers her a beer, gets her home, gets her into bed.
What a crazy time to be alive, the 1980s.
Yeah, when you could do stuff like that without being, roofied or murdered or having your organs stolen or being accused of being a chauvinist or, everybody was just cool, hanging out.
Well, I think they were murdering people back then, but not in this movie.
But casual sex wasn't dead yet, damn it.
No. You go back in time and live through the 80s as like a 20-year-old and be born in the 60s. Imagine how crazy that would be. You'd have to go see The Fog in theaters and not Jaws 2.
probably about as crazy high as our ratings are going to be for this. I can only imagine that you and I are both going to rate this pretty high. And this is, we're getting pretty good at this. I almost feel like we're cheating anybody who's listening because we usually go a little more in depth to the story. But I think we've been kind of trying to get away from that and just try to create buzz and interest for these movies. So again, if you haven't seen The Fog, it is more of a traditional horror film. It's got a fucking fantastic story. It's got kind of an even tempoed pace. I don't think it has pacing issues. The special effects are not over the top. The score is amazing. If you haven't seen it, go watch this film. Settle in. It's relaxing while being scary and entertaining. I think I would have liked to seen a little bit more gore from it, but it didn't need it. It didn't need it at all. It was kind of like a really good pro wrestling match that didn't need the blood to sell everything, you know. But if you get it, you're like, oh, that's fucking cool.
I don't feel like you'd be on your edge of the seat for this. I don't feel like you're going to be scared out of your mind when you watch this movie. It's just like you said, a nice, relaxing, comfort horror film that you could put on at any time and just watch.
Let's just meditate for a minute.
And it's also one of them films that you could throw on where anybody's around. You know, you're not going to get any weird sex or anybody's heads chopped off or anything like that.
No, I mean, Tom Atkins is the man, but you're not going to get anything that you can't see.
Yeah, your family's not going to think you're a weirdo for watching this one.
Well,
yeah, maybe.
What do you rate this?
I'm going to go 8.5. I've been doing these 0.5s lately because I'm like, it's better than an 8, but I don't think it's quite a 9.
That's what the kids do with their photography now. They're like, what is that? Like, I got to get to 0.5, and it's these weird angled photos.
Yeah.
You've been hanging out at that coffee shop.
Too damn much.
Period.
Yeah. 8.5 synth scores out of 10. Just a solid, relaxing, probably going to go put it back on because I have it for 72 hours on Canopy. So we'll just play it all damn day. What about you?
This is a rare movie where the discussion actually talked it down a point. I was going to say 10 out of 10 because this is a fucking masterpiece. This is a work of art. I've seen this movie a million times. I love this movie. I'll go watch it again and again and again. But as we're sitting there talking about it, I think the one thing that, again, like I just said, it wasn't needed, but I really think I would have loved to see just a little bit more gore. That's probably the only negative thing I'll say about it. And so I'm going to go 9 out of 10 fog machines. A lot of fucking fog, just like Horror Hotel, which you can't have a movie called The Fog without a lot of fucking fog. That's cool. You said they had fog machines at the movie theaters. God, I wish I would have seen that.
You think people would go back in time to like save the world, cure disease? What are we doing? Going to fucking watch a movie at the theater.
with fog machines in the movie theaters. That's all I want. Yeah. I don't want the winning lotto ticket. I just want to watch fog machines.
Maybe get the winning lotto ticket and then you could have money to go back in time more and more movies.
Well, you know, one thing you don't have to go back in time to do, because you can just go listen to old episodes whenever the hell you want, is you can pay a visit to our podcast network, the PFPN, search up all the great content from all the great different podcasts on there, and you can spend the rest of your life listening to the soundtrack from The Fog and all of the great content on the PFPN.
You're listening to the Prescribed Films Podcast Network, home to hundreds of hours of free podcast entertainment. The shows on this network all have a common goal, providing you with the best discussions about movies and other forms of entertainment media. The PFPN hopes to fill your earholes with audio joy. Visit our website with links to all the other amazing shows at www.thepfpn.com. Thanks for listening.
So now that we've heard from our podcast network, it's time for This Day in Horror.
A date which will live in infamy.
Or horror history. I feel like it's been a while since we recorded. It probably hasn't, though. Maybe I've just recorded so much lately, they're all starting to blur together.
It kind of feels like it's been nonstop lately, to be honest with you.
So we're covering the dates July 22nd through August 4th. So this comes out the Sunday that we're at Flashback. Well, the next episode would come out. So on July 22nd, in 1977, you get the original The Hills Have Eyes. Then in 1983, you get Jaws 3D. That's kind of interesting. It came out in 83.
Terrible 3D effects, but it is a good movie, and it's got some scary fucking scenes in it.
And then in 2022, you get Nope.
I still have, I've wanted to see that. I still haven't seen it.
Finley figured out way before Tiffany and I did what was going on in the movie. And she was like 4 at the fucking time. July 28th in 1999, another shark movie, Deep Blue Sea.
Stop yelling at me, please.
No, I can't stop yelling, because that's how I talk. You ain't never seen my movies? Deep Blue Sea, they ate me. A shark ate me. Drink, bitch.
I love Deep Blue Sea, so at one point I had 3 movie posters. Around that time that came out, I worked at a video store, and I had 3 movie posters on my wall that I got from there. It was Deep Blue Sea, it was Goodfellas, and it was the original Night of the Living Dead. And I looked at those, and it probably sounds dumb, but I looked at it as passion, fear, and attitude. Because zombies and Night of the Living Dead is passion, and sharks I'm scared to death of.
You know, the interesting thing about Goodfellas, that's Henry Hill, who's a famous gangster. Ray Liotta played him in the movie, right? So that where I live, the prison in the town I live in is called Henry Hill Correctional Center. I don't know why they would name a prison after a mobster, but they did. Whatever.
That sounds like something that should be covered on the wrong podcast side.
Yeah. In 2016, you get Yoga Hosers.
What the fuck is Yoga Hosers?
It's a Canadian.
That's all you had to say.
And then in 2023, you get Talk to Me with the Hand, which is getting another movie, Talk to Me 2.
You know, and everybody's different. I was not a fan.
Yeah,
not a fan.
It was fine.
I was hoping it was going to be better, I guess is what I should say.
But they're coming out with another one of those. And then July 31st in 1987, The Lost Boys.
Oh, come on. Look, right now, I'll play some music from The Lost Boys.
The saxophone.
I was thinking like, stay alone to the night. What in the shadows? All right.
Oh, it was like I was at the concert. I don't need a clip.
Right? Just play that.
And then in 1992, Death Becomes Her. That's fun.
It's either, I can't remember if it's getting remade. I don't think it's what it is. I think it's on Broadway now, or it's getting turned into a theater show. One of those two. I think it's the theater.
And then in 2009, you get Aliens in the Attic, which is a fun kids movie.
I remember that movie. I like that movie.
And then The Collector. The Collector's great.
That's still one of those movies that I've heard nothing but good things about and have not seen.
And then I think there's The Collection. I know there's at least 2. There might be a 3rd movie in that trilogy, if it's a trilogy. But yeah, that's a good one too. So solid horror history. Nothing that's like, ooh, it's the best ever. I mean, The Lost Boys.
Aliens in the Attic.
That was your favorite one out of those?
It's the oddest fit out of everything you listed. Then you throw out their Aliens in the Attic. And I'm like, what the fuck is going on with Brian's list? What the fuck is going on? Convention. It is full swing convention season. So that's what we got going on. Trying to figure out how to piece cool content together that go along with all these shows that we're going to be at.
That's it.
One of the reasons we covered the fog this episode was because, again, Adrian Barbeau is going to be, and Tom Atkins are going to be at Flashback, and this comes out before then. We were trying to find a bridge between Nightmares and Flashback to cover a film that, you know, was able to showcase both cons, and the only connection we found was Brent Wagner from the remake of the Texas Chainsaw Massacre was going to be there. He's going to be at both shows, which is amazing. I think Brian and I just kind of weren't feeling talking about that movie, and sometimes don't force it. Decent movie. You know what I mean? He played a great Leatherface.
It's not The Fog.
It's not The Fog. No, it's not. And then, but so obviously you've already heard it. I'm pretty sure it came out before this. Right now, I don't know my timelines. We wound up doing a bonus episode interview with one of the not creators, but one of the promoters of Motor City Nightmares in Novi, Michigan. So we're able to kind of, you know, hit both things.
I mean, at some point, there's going to be weeks that you will hear from us all the damn time with all this shit that's coming out.
Can you imagine? So once the wrong podcast that died, is it died or dies?
Died.
Once that gets integrated into the lineup, and I know this is so stupid, people are I'm tired of hearing me say this, but then if I were to ever bring the news back, can you imagine it is going to be, like you say, a spooky universe? It is going to be just an ongoing onslaught of our voices.
Oh, you could bring the news back one day a week.
That's kind of what I've been thinking is one day a week. I had something in mind a while ago, and then you know how life works. I've been thinking about doing one day a week just because I do miss doing it immensely. We'll be putting out so much content that people will constantly be hearing our voices. It'll be kind of like the subliminal skit on SNL, where we could just kind of, since they hear it all the time, you know, when you hear something over and over and over, it just kind of becomes true. So we could just be like, you know, I don't know, like, and so here on the I Like a Spooky Horror Cop, buy a t-shirt. I think next up, we're going to talk about buy a t-shirt, and then you can go to inkmirrors.com and buy a t-shirt, you know, and just, we'll be rich.
Throw it in there. I was thinking of the people from Scanners, you know, where their heads explode eventually.
Oh, they're going to hear our voices so much. Well, maybe if they hear Rod's voice so much, you know, hey, you got to bust his balls. He's a new kid on the block.
Well, don't forget to like and subscribe to the I Like It Spooky Horror Podcast, wherever you get your podcasts. Listen for Mishmash from our friend Leah Stalker at Pure Macabre for all your Michigan horror happenings. Appendages with Popcorn Flicks and Crackle and Redbox and now Tubi. What else do we got?
Well, the wrong podcast died.
Yeah, for pop culture.
Yep, that's with you and Rod. We got Indie Spotlight with you and myself and Leah. And then, like we keep talking about, maybe Spill the Guts will rise from the grave so you can hear me sound like Walter Cronkite and say, today in horror news, this is going to happen. But until then...
I feel like he said something at the end of his podcast.
Well, what, Walter Cronkite? It was probably just a guy, I don't know, like a thank you and good night. I can't remember, you know. Then it would go to the staticky TV.
But yeah, until next time, from myself and Mr. Cronkite, take care. Bye-bye.
It has been a pleasure talking to you this episode.
What do you think this is all about? You think this is a fucking costume? This is a way of life.